Welcome to the special broadcast from Leicester here in the United Kingdom. In this episode of Race for 10 Downing Street, we'll break down what the UK elections really mean, what's the process, and what the stunning poll predictions say. The House of Commons, or the lower house of UK Parliament, houses 650 members to be elected in single-day voting on 4th of July. To secure a majority in Parliament, a party must win at least 326 seats. The leader of the party which crosses that line becomes the Prime Minister and forms a government. Ruling Conservative Party had months to go, but the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced the election early, suddenly on a rainy May day.
Now is the moment for Britain to choose its future, to decide whether we want to build on the progress we have made or risk going back to square one with no plan and no certainty.
In a month-and-a-half-long campaign, Conservatives seem all set to be kicked out of office after 14 turbulent years, marked by Britain's vote to leave the European Union in 2016, the cost of living crisis that followed the COVID-19 pandemic and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Opinion polls have consistently given Sir Keir Starmer centre-left Labour Party an around 20-point lead over the incumbent Conservatives. With support for the far-right insurgent reform potentially splitting the centre-right vote and the centrist Liberal Democrats further draining Tory vote, 5th of July promises to be a challenge for them.
Since the snap election was called, which is looking like a bit of a backfire now for Rishi Sunak, Labour have been favourites. They've got shorter and shorter, and the Conservatives have got bigger and bigger, effectively. That's not to say we don't see money for Conservatives and parties like Reform, because they are bigger prices. The interesting thing is around the seats and the betting on how many seats each party gets. The way it's set, and you bet under and over a total number of seats, the way the betting is set at the moment, this could be the biggest majority we've seen for a long time, and Labour's most seats they've ever managed to gather, 1997 being the previous record.
Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer voiced his party's fear that voters could see the result as a foregone conclusion and stay at home during polling or register protest votes with smaller parties.
We are fighting for every vote, and across the country there will be constituencies which will go down to the wire. And therefore we will continue to fight until 10 o'clock tomorrow night, making the case that change only happens if you vote for it.
Liberal Democrat leader Ed Davey continued his more novel approach to campaigning after his water sport exploits and bungee jump from earlier in the campaign. On the last day, he was at a tractor race across a field in southwest England.
I'm really proud that in this election campaign, as well as having a bit of fun, we brought the issue of caring out of the shadows. And we've made the argument that if you look after family carers, if you look after professional carers, you can rescue our NHS as well.
Who wins 10 Downing Street will be clear by 5th July night, and a new British Parliament will return on 9th of July. Bureau Report, India Today. The incumbent British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak recorded the worst net satisfaction rating since 1979 in the latest surveys. Labour leader Keir Starmer is surging way ahead of the Conservatives in the poll predictions, and it seems like Rishi Sunak in the past few weeks of campaigning looked rather tired during his campaign trail. Here is a report. On the penultimate day of campaigning before UK votes, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak kicked off his day with a visit to the vast Ocado warehouse in Luton, north of London, watching robots pick items for delivery. Badly lagging in the race to win Britain's election, the Tories, after 14 years, are scrambling to put the house together. These years have been marked by a sluggish economy, declining public services and a series of scandals cornering Rishi Sunak's Conservative Party, an easy target for critics on the left and the right. The poster boy of the Tories have now started to remind voters of the perils of a Labour government as the polls show them miles ahead of him.
I know you're frustrated with me, frustrated with our party. Hasn't been an easy few years for anybody. I get all of that. And in particular, if these polls are right, and Labour are in power with a supermajority, you have to think about what that will mean. A government, a Labour government, unchecked. No one to hold them accountable, no one to stand up to them in Parliament, and all of the impact it would have on all of your lives. And I say this to you, if you hand Labour a blank cheque, you will not be able to get it back.
Labour's Sir Keir Starmer, the likely next Prime Minister of Britain, stuck to the same core message, calling for a change of political leadership during a traditional election campaign event at a football ground in Nottinghamshire.
I can hardly believe that 48 hours before an election, the Conservative Party has got nothing possible positive to say as they go into this. I've been arguing throughout this campaign, you'll have heard me many times saying they haven't changed, they're just the same, nothing's going to change. And they're proving it, because they are not saying, look, if you vote Tory, vote Conservative on Thursday, these things will happen. They're just in this negative, desperate loop.
Britain, after a decade and a half, seems desperate for a change. The Cotswold area has been a Conservative stronghold for 3 decades. Though the North Cotswold electoral seat is new, the area has been represented by the same Conservative MP for 32 years during multiple boundary changes. Yet, the Liberal Democrats hope for a breakthrough victory here.
This has been a Tory seat forever, for 32 years, longer than I've been alive. And so this is actually quite an exciting election for me, because it's the first time that actually Lib Dems might win, and actually my vote might count towards something. Because in the past I've felt that way. Even though I have voted, I felt like my vote isn't important because it's always going to be Tory.
I find amongst my friendship group that a lot of people will have traditionally been one nation Tories, without really thinking about it, because that's the way their parents voted, etc., etc. I won't be at all surprised if a lot of them don't vote, or might just hold their nose and vote Lib Dem.
Cotswold is not alone. The mood of the voters strongly indicates a change in leadership reflected in each and every poll conducted so far.
We are here at the iconic Trafalgar Square. There are people, tourists, buskers, all of them, all the fanfare. But no fanfare or carnival-like situation over here in London when it comes to elections. It's so interesting. I've been trying to talk to a lot of tourists over here. None that really wants to come on camera, but they have no idea that maybe in 4 days' time, the Prime Minister of this country could change.
Barely hours away from the polling, business goes on as usual in London, with no banners, posters, flags that accompany the carnival of an election. London's Palace of Westminster stands as the grand prize for the winner of the 4th of July election. With Geeta Mohan in London, Bureau Report, India Today.
That's all in this edition of Race for 10 Downing Street. We'll come back to you tomorrow morning when the Brits go out to vote. It's soon after that the counting will begin, and in the wee hours of July 5th, we'll know the clear winner, the man who's going to form the government here in the United Kingdom. Goodbye and take care.